Hello, my name is Nicole Winter. I am a visual arts teacher at the Wolmer's High School for Girls. My research topic is the impact of culture on visual arts students' work at the Wolmer's High School for Girls in Kingston, Jamaica. The reason I chose Wolmer's Girls is primarily because I teach there. Wolmer's Girls School has a population of approximately 1,800 students, and the school is divided into two tiers, lower and upper school. Everyone does art in the lower, but only 37 students pursue art in the upper. Okay, the students at Women's High School for Girls, the students are mandated to pursue only two expressive forms after completing a rotation of six expressive forms. These include painting and mixed media, ceramics, textiles, drawing, printmaking, and graphics. I teach only two of these expressive forms, that is, ceramics and painting and mixed media. Therefore, the students I focused on in my research were already predetermined because I have ready access to them and the lessons taught. However, I chose painting and mixed media because of the nature of the materials involved and the fact that the students have spent more years with the painting than any other of the other medias. The images that are here, this is the a painting done by Heather Sutherland Wade, which is a famous Jamaican watercolor painter. This is actually a painting of part of the Woolmer's property. Um, and the student here is one of my students. Um, she's displaying her poster design for a competition that was entered while being at Woolmer's Girls School. Okay. Um, the pie chart here shows the percentage of students that from the different expressive forms. It was drafted on the grade 10 and grade 11 visual arts students. As you can see, that the painting and mixed media here has 31%, which is the highest, the largest cohort of students in the painting and mixed media section, whereas textiles have a 4%, which is the least. Ceramics and drawing are relatively close, 1% difference. And graphics and printmaking is just at 2% apart. So, as you can see, what it looks like. So, over the past 4 years of teaching at this institution, I realized that there is a general lack of creativity, mainly cliche overuse, and the stereotypical portrayal of certain ideas are seen from students. And as a consequence, the works does not reflect the student's identity nor the culture they are a part of, mainly because they learn to plagiarize and copy whatever they see. And so this research sets out to investigate what exactly is going on in the minds of these students. Okay. At high schools generally in Jamaica and the wider Caribbean, the main external examination is the CXC. Because the CXC is a Caribbean examination, they require that the students incorporate the Caribbean identity and culture in the works. Hence, this was the reason we, as our teachers, urge the students to portray their cultural identity in their works. And in spite of how much we, our teachers, say or encourage them to do that, um, the students, we encourage them to carbonize or Jamaicanize their works. However, we still encounter some amount of disconnection between this CXC standard or requirement and what the students often produce. Therefore, this has led me to theorize that there may be some limitations of cultural knowledge. Hence, the statement of problem, which is right here, the limited knowledge of culture and visual arts students stand in the way of a holistic understanding of the impact class tutorial and discussions on the students' artistic development. So basically, I'm saying the knowledge is limited. That could have been one of the things. And like I said before, painting and mixed media, I was chosen because I teach it. Secondly, because it is the largest expressive form, as you saw in the pie chart previously shown. And thirdly, the students spend more time with this expressive form more than any other area because they actually started doing painting and mixed media from as early as second form, which is grade 8. So pretty much the objectives are to investigate the impact that the Jamaican culture has on the art students, to investigate the influence on other cultures, or to investigate the influence of other cultures on the students' artwork, and thirdly, to determine the impact that the painting and mixed media class, the discussion held in the class, has on the students' approach to creativity. Okay, the students at Women's High School for Girls, the students are mandated to pursue only 2 expressive forms after completing a rotation of 6 expressive forms. These include painting and mixed media, ceramics, textiles, drawing, printmaking, and graphics. I teach only 2 of these expressive forms, that is ceramics and painting and mixed media. Therefore, the students I focused on in my research were already predetermined because I have ready access to them and the lessons taught. However, I chose painting and mixed media because of the nature of. Okay, so the participants are mainly the grade 10 and 11, which is the upper school, mixed media students, painting and mixed media students. Um, the combined class size between grade 10 and 11 is approximately 20 students. 5 students were selected randomly and were interviewed from these groups collectively. The students were interviewed in the art department. And this happened. Well, I tried to do it during the class interval, but that didn't work out. So we had actually had it immediately after the classes and after school. Um, they were asked around a total of 11 questions, and the interview was not formal. It was very informal, and the interview was documented by a videotaping, and the notes were also taken. Okay, the interview questions, it was in well, as I said before, the interview was an informal interview. um the students in our class were the students in the background while the interview was being conducted were based primarily the students in the class, and teachers, and they were engaged in their usual activity because I wanted the students that I'm interviewing to be relaxed and comfortable and have minimal amount of anxiety. So, while I carried out the interview, in doing that, I tend to smile a lot and just to help them to relax. Because I can see that they started out being nervous, and then as the interview proceeds, they tend to calm down, calm a little. Um, so that I attempted to find out if the students were conscious of the Caribbean culture and identity. The questions also tried to find out their personality or the personal identity, their inspirations and interests, their perceptions of Caribbean culture, um, their perceptions of the class and the impact it had on their work, and how conscious were they of this impact. The, okay, after analyzing the interview, there were the responses of the interview, there were some issues encountered that led to the need for further questioning. This resulted based on the responses as well as the images the students were displaying. These queries include, as I read, is there a modern Jamaican culture, or is there a modern Jamaican cultural identity? Um, One of the reasons for this is because this what the students actually had in the work was so different and far-fetched from what they actually spoke about, what the Caribbean image looks like. However, the task of trying to capture these images in around them, um, it did not reflect what they said, what they stated in the interview. Um, should the culture of a people be static or reflexive is the next question that I was, pondering, because if it is supposed to be static, then it would look like what the stereotypical image of what we have learned about our culture, Jamaica. But if it's supposed to be reflexive, meaning that it is fine-tuned and it changes as time and as modernization and technology improves, there are certain images that you would have or would not have, Another question was, are students really disconnected from their works? Because if culture is not static, are they is it because of the constant change, and these changes might be minute, and it depending on where you are located in society, then your impact would be different, or your influence will also be different. Another question is, cultural identity maintained or suppressed in the artworks of the students? And that could be debatable. Where do art students draw their inspiration for the artworks? You know, where they got it from? And the responses were like a wide range of things. Are students moving away from the stereotypical image of the Caribbean and the culture? That is another question that it had me pondering. Um, the results. Overall, what students say was totally far-fetched, as I said before, from what actually is depicted in their works. Had I not looked on the works and tried to match it up with what they're saying, then I would have probably run with what they say, what the Caribbean identity and image is, and what they're trying to portray. But when after carefully looking at the works, it said something else. They had mostly European culture. It expressed trees that are not grown here. You could see like the physical trees are it it's ambiguous in a sense. I'm not always able to identify what they have in the background. Even the people, the ethnicity of the people, what did not was not parallel to what we is actually here, right? Another thing is that one student actually said that she is inspired by music, music like Korean music, music that does not, which hardly get earplay here. And this music she will hear on the internet and so forth. So they're influenced by Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, and so forth. As you can see, some of the icons are here. Um, one student who is African descent claimed that she does not feel African, so she cannot relate. But she speaks how she longs to connect. She would love to connect to this so-called Caribbean heritage of hers. As you can see again, the impact of Jamaican culture on students was extremely minimal. One student admitted to feel disconnected because she does not partake in the traditional practices. And as they continue to explain that when they look around, they don't see these traditional practices, that so-called image of what we said is Jamaican. They don't see it everywhere, and it's not there in the everyday routine. Like John Cooney, John Connor festivals and so forth. 4 out of 5 students connected in some way but refer to depict other cultures because they appear more attractive and transmitted through social media, as I said before, that they claimed that the media was one of the big influence. And the Jamaican culture or the Caribbean culture is not always as attractive as the other cultures abroad. The paint and mixed media class had been instrumental for them for their development. They did say that. Students were in unison with that actually and shared their testimonials of how the class had influenced their work positively, in terms of concept, in terms of making deeper connection, in terms of moving away from the stereotype type of thinking and type of expression, and they're just more conscious about how to create. They're able to create the background, midground, and foreground in their works, as and usually before the class they were not thinking that kind of details. Recommendations. All in all, this research only opened doors for further investigation to be done. I am I am actually leaning more towards action research. I think that action research would be more appropriate for this type of case study. However, I am open to suggestions. Another reason for further investigation is that the art teachers of the students should have been included in the interview, as there is a total of 4 teachers, and hence different viewpoints would have helped out a lot. The various expressive forms may encounter different challenges, and we only looked at the painting and mixed media. So, even though the others were smaller groups, but maybe the impact could have been a little different for the different medias. Um, I believe that non-artist students should have also been considered. Maybe to have them to hear their views about what is Caribbean art, what is Jamaican art, and even to show them some of the artworks done by some of the students and have them talk about it to see if this is their idea of Caribbean and Jamaican art as well, and also to consider other literature reviews of similar studies. My final note is I find that this research has opened up a can with all sorts of issues that needs to be ironed out so it can be better understood. Therefore, I have to go back to the drawing board and follow the previous recommendation outlined. Thank you.